welcome to Board Games with Niramas. I'm Joseph and I'm here today with Draco. Of course, he's on the sideline here. And we are going to do the top 10 Sanctum cards list for KeyForge. Well, this was hard. This was really hard to pick 10 cards. I think I could have picked 10 creatures basically and 10 action cards or something like that. I like Sanctum, as you might guessed. And yeah, there's so many good creatures, especially in this one. But I tried to mix it up with some different kinds of cards, of course, as I've done before. And also I want to say, as I usually do, tell me in the comment section down here if you don't agree, if you have any opinions about my list. That's always fun. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. For many more KeyForge videos, you can also go check out my KeyForge playlist, where you can just click the little eye up there. There's a bunch of different playthroughs with friends or with Draco and so on, and also unboxings of these KeyForge decks and displays to find the cool cards. So go check that out if you haven't, and let's get started with the top 10 Sanctum cards. So number 10 is a card that I just recently got in the deck and played it a few times. This is a cool one. Jihu the Bureaucrat. He's a creature with only 3 power though, so he's a bit weak, but he has a really cool ability that he has a passive ability that as long as he's alive, when you choose Sanctum as your active house, you get 2 amber. So if you can protect him somehow, if you can, might be able to play an upgrade on him that gives him armor and so on, or you can put him next to one of these Sanctum. There's a bunch of Sanctum creatures that gives armor or sort of boost with the taunt. So yeah, if you can keep him alive, he can be really useful. Really cool stuff with Jihu the Bureaucrat. I just love that name as well. It's just so much fun, and the artwork. So that's my number 10 for Sanctum. Okay, so my number 9 is an action card called Inspiration. This is fairly simple. You play it and you get to ready and use a friendly creature. And of course it doesn't have to be a Sanctum creature, which is nice, so you can use something else out there. And also I like that it's use, it's not fight. There's some other cards and so on that let you use a creature to fight, but this one is use, so you can reap with a creature or use the action ability on it. And of course I always like these cards that let you use another house, a card from another house that is not the active house, that gives you so much flexibility when you're playing. So Inspiration, I always want to have 1 or 2 of these in a Sanctum deck. And for number 8, I was almost about to put Champion Anafiel in the deck because, well, she's really similar. She's a creature as well as the Sanctum Guardian that I chosen, that has 6 power and 1 armor. So they're similar in that way. They both have taunt, but Sanctum Guardian, of course, also have the Fight Reap ability to swap him with another friendly creature in your battle line, which means he can jump around. So that makes him better. He's a bit more rare than Champion Anafiel, but what he does is, the swapping is awesome, because then you can reap with him or fight, and then you can just move him around, which means he will protect someone else, because the taunt will protect those on the sides. So maybe you play him earlier on, and then you play another card far out on the flank, weaker card, like the Bureaucrat that we talked about just a minute ago. Well, then you can move him over there to protect that card, that creature. So that's awesome with this guy, Sanctum Guardian. That's my number 8. For number 7, we have another action card, Blinding Light. Gives you an amber when you play it, and you get to choose a house, and it will stun each creature of that house. Now, this could be some situations where, let's say you have the same houses as your opponent. Then, of course, it's maybe not that good, but most of the time you're going to not have all the exact 3 same houses as your opponent. So you can choose a house of a house that your opponent has a bunch of creatures out there, and they will all be stunned. I like that it will stun each creature of that house. It's just so, I had this against, when my opponent had like a bunch, maybe 5 or 6 creatures out there, I just stun them all at once. That's just such a good thing. Otherwise, your opponent might choose that house as an active house next turn and reap and fight with all of those. And yeah, this can really stop your opponent. So Blinding Light is my number 7. And for number 6, it's really hard to choose between all of these good creatures that are in the Sanctum deck, but the Sequis, he's really nice. He has 4 power, 2 armor, which is good, and when he reaps, he captures 1. Have some decks with 2 or 3 in them, and that they can capture a bunch, which is a good way to stop your opponent, because Sanctum doesn't have, I don't think they really have any like steal abilities, and they don't have that many ways to reduce your the amber count of your opponent. So Sequis can do that, and that's really good. And he's so strong as well, so it's kind of hard to kill him as well. And yeah, 2 armor, that's just great against those direct damage cards and so on. There's a bunch of, as we talked about earlier, there's a bunch of these like do 2 damage and so on, direct cards. So this one, yeah, Sequis is my number 6 because yeah, it was hard to choose, but I like this one. And for number 5, another strong creature in the Sanctum display, Bulwark. 4 power, 2 armor, just a Sequis. But Bulwark has the passive ability of giving his neighbors +2 armor. This can be used in so many ways. This is good in any situation. I mean, all these small cards I talked about earlier, all these small cards that need protection, well, this is a way to help them. In some ways, it's even better than a taunt because, 2 armor means you are protected from a lot of direct damage cards as well that would just ignore the taunt anyhow. So Bulwark can protect like that. If you have 2 Bulwarks, you put them in there sort of in the middle, they will give a lot of armor to its neighbors. Then you have some taunts with some creatures. The total amount of your battle line with armor and taunts and all that, you can protect a lot of stuff. So Bulwark, just love him. That's my number 5. And for number 4, we continue on this creature armor thingy that we have going. The Grey Monk, with only 3 power though, so he needs to be protected, maybe by the Bulwark or something. He doesn't have any armor either. But well, he gives himself an armor because he gives each friendly creature an armor. And when he reaps, he can heal 2 damage from a creature as well. So that's good as well. He can be a healer, but he's also this support guy that gives everyone 1 armor. And 1 armor might not sound that much, but it is in this game because all those direct damage cards and so on, just having 1 less damage taken, that's good. So Grey Monk is one of my favorites. That's why he's my number 4 for Sanctum. And at number 3, we have an action card, Doorstep to Heaven. Gives you an amber when you play it, and each player with 6 amber or more is reduced down to 5. This can really hurt your opponent. It's 6 or more, so your opponent might have, a bunch of amber, might have just had a good turn where he played Untamed and he did all these combos and he's up to 14 amber and he's so confident about being able to make 1 or 2 keys in the future, down to 5. And if you don't have, even if you have, well, you usually don't have, because it's your turn, right? So if you had a bunch of amber, you already made a key and all that, you usually don't have that much amber. And you can play this sort of at the start. Well, you get the amber first, that's important. But you can play this to start off your turn, right? And then you play other stuff that gives you amber. So Doorstep to Heaven, would like to have this in all my Sanctum decks. I don't really have it in that many decks, but it's an awesome one for just, well, this section of cards that just breaks your opponent's plans. You're often in this game in the situation where you're sitting there and your opponent has just checked, that he or she will make a key. It might be the 3rd one. How are we going to stop them? That's the main focus, and this card really helps you with that. So that's my number 3 for Sanctum. And my number 2 card is an upgrade, Armageddon Cloak. This is a rare one, so you don't see it that often, but it gives you an amber, and the creature that you put it on gets Hazardous 2, which is nice. That means that if it's attacked, the attack will take 2 damage before the fight starts. That's also good. That's a way to protect many of the small ones as well, because, well, it happens before the fight. So if your opponent has a creature with 1 or 2 power, it can't attack you because it's going to die before anything happens. Also, the main part of this card is that when the creature that is attached to is destroyed, you heal the creature and you destroy the cloak instead. So basically you give your creature double life, or sort of an extra life. And this is so good. This can be used in such many combinations. I love this card. Again, you want to protect some of those, especially like cards that have a passive effect out there. You want to make sure that you protect them. This is a great way to protect them. And so Armageddon Cloak is my number 2. And now let's head to number 1, which is a bit special. Okay, so it's time for number 1, and as I mentioned, it's a bit special because it's 4 cards. It's the Horseman cards. They are the best in Sanctum, I think. They have been a bit overrated, I think, with all this eBay stuff and people buying these decks for a lot of money, but they are good. They are really good. And it's hard to just pick one of these. Like, the main one I picked here is, of course, the Horseman of Death, because he's the one that will return the other Horseman creatures from the discard pile to your hand. So first you want to play these 3 other ones. Let's go through them. We have the Horseman of War. well, when you play him, then all your creatures can fight for the rest of the turn, which is great. He's okay. Horseman of Pestilence is really good because he has the ability of, when you play, fight, or reap with him, anything you do with him, then you're going to deal 1 damage to each non-horseman creature, which could be your own as well, so you got to be a bit careful about that, because you could hurt your own creatures. But if they have armor, a lot of, as we've seen through this list, a lot of the Sanctum creatures have armor, so then they will be protected that way. Because you get the armor back right at the end of your turn. So yeah, that's a nice one. And having the Horseman of Pestilence out, they all have 5 power as well, so they're pretty strong. And having him out there, well, your opponent can't really like put out weak creatures, because then it's your turn. You're gonna choose Sanctum, just gonna reap with him or fight with him, and then he's gonna do the 1 to everyone once again. So, and there's also a nice combination here. Because the Horseman of Famine, when you play fight or reap with him, he will destroy the weakest creature on the board, which could be your own again, so you have to be careful about that. But yeah, he also sort of makes it so that your opponent can't really put out the weak creatures and, for much use, more than the playability, but then they're gonna die, sort of. So, and then when your opponent kills off the horsemen, well, then you bring out the Horseman of Death and you pick everything up to your hand again, and you can play those 3 again, and 2 of them, or all of them, have playabilities as well. So yeah, really good stuff. I love the Horseman cards. I only have them in 1 deck, and yeah, they are really rare. But the thing is, if you get one of these, I can't recall how that works, but if you get any one of these, then you get the other one. So you always get those 4 in that deck. That's why I couldn't really pick. I didn't want to put them in 4 different slots on the top 10 list, and I didn't want to just pick one of them. So yeah, cheating a bit on the top list here, but that's my number 1, the Horsemen. And the Horseman of Death is the key, basically. And there's decks out there, just a few, I think, but there's a few that has double Horsemen. So you have 8 of the 12 Sanctum cards are Horsemen, which means you have 2 Horsemen of Death, which means you would pick up, it says return each Horseman creature, you would pick up all of them, which, yeah, that's just crazy. Then you could just bounce that off, because then you would pick up the other Death guy from the discard pile as well. That's crazy, and that's the decks that has been sold on eBay for a lot of money. And I can understand that if you have double. Then again, for tournament play, I mean, there's going to be chains, and there's going to be some tournament formats. Like, I'm mostly interested in sealed for this game, and in that case, yeah. So I don't know if it's that good, if it's worth all that money, of course, but it's really nice if you can get 1 set of Horsemen in your deck, then you can have a lot of fun with them. So that's my number 1 for Sanctum. If you don't agree with me, tell me in the comment section, or if you do agree with me, perhaps, then you can, give me some support. And so we'll see each other again soon. We'll be doing Shadows next. The Shadows have a bunch of cards as well. Really hard to pick just 10 of those. But I'm gonna try, and we'll see each other soon in a few days when I launch that video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy these lists, and don't forget to like the video to show that as well. Have a great evening or morning whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Do you want to keep this little dragon this happy all day long? Then like the video. Board Games with Niramas is sponsored by Alara Games in Sweden.